Hello, everyone, and welcome to another live stream. Thank you for your patience. There is a lot that I read this week because I made a concerned effort to actually read some stuff, not only in my physical pile, although I did do that, but also my digital backlog as well. So there's a lot to get through. There's a lot to get through. Hello, Lasagna. Welcome to the live stream. I hope everyone has had a wonderful week, looking after yourselves, staying happy, healthy, whatever else. Hello, Rin. Welcome to the live stream. So this week has been pretty conducive to my reading, namely because I worked from home a lot this week. Oh, thank you, Lasagna. That's so kind of you. But I worked from home a lot this week, so it was cold. Two, we had mask protocols still ongoing, which have finally been rolled back again today. So next week back in the office, hopefully, fingers crossed. Although we do have some renovation stuff going on there, so maybe not. We'll see. But you don't care about any of that, I'm sure. Instead, we're going to talk about a whole bunch of different manga, plenty of ongoing series, started a couple series. Hello, Archangel Manga. Welcome to the live stream. Couple new series. One that I think is an ongoing series, but maybe not. I don't know. Viz didn't put a number on the spine, and there's no number on the cover, but I also think more of this is coming out, so maybe, I don't know, we're gonna have to figure that out at some point. But okay, so this week, first and foremost, I think I'll leave the BL to the end just because I don't want to, I don't know, scare people off maybe necessarily at the beginning of the live stream. And I was proactive this week as well, and I made banners as well. So when I'm talking about digital titles, although I can't show them off in all their pretty glory, you will hopefully still know what I'm talking about. So the first series that I'm going to be talking about that I read this week is Starcrossed. I read volumes 2 to 4 by Junko. This is her more recent shoujo manga. You may know her. She's a BL mangaka. She has a couple titles in print from June. She also has her finished, completed shoujo series Kiss Him Not Me, which I do enjoy. It's not the perfect series. It has its issues, but I do like it. I like Junko typically. But 4 is the final volume for this one. So I had read volume 1 ages and ages ago. And so finally I had the other volumes. I finally decided to finish it all up. So this is the story of a young teenage girl who, like Junko's protagonists, is she's kind of the perfect girl at school. She's the class president or student council president, something along those lines. Very well respected, gives off a very mature, I guess, sense to her, and so her fellow classmates and all of that care and definitely look up to her and respect her. But little do they know that she is an absolute crazy stan for this particular idol group, which has like 4 boys in it. But more particularly for, yeah, it would be great if she could come back to BL. That would be, I do like her BL, and I want more of it in print. But she's this crazy stan for this group, and one of the members in particular. And while nobody knows this except for her best childhood friend who lives next door and is like obsessively in love with her. And he's like, your true self is really weird, and if anyone else at school knew this about you, they would absolutely judge you. And she's like, I don't care because and she's one of those crazy obsessive fans that get upset thinking about, and I don't know if this is just, I mean, one of those fans who are like, if they date, then they're then thus sullied. That if my like person I'm so attached to dates, then it means that they're ruined for life. Their pureness or whatever has been wrecked. And I'm like, oh girl, chill. But anyway, so the basic premise is she's at one of the concerts for this idol group, and then in a freak accident, a light falls from above and is about to crush. Hello, Zach. Welcome to the live stream. Is about to crush her favorite boy, and so the adrenaline just like overtakes her body, and she jumps in the way to try and push him out of the way. But the light falls on both of them, and ultimately they both die. But once after they've died, right? God, the Lord God himself is like, oh, hey guys, sorry about that. Girl, you actually weren't supposed to die. Egg on my face. I don't know. This is just a whole thing. So because there's a mix-up, I'll just let you guys, go back to your normal lives. Just keep having a good time. And then so that happens, and then they find out a little bit later that they can switch bodies with each other. And so that's the premise. It's basically like Your Name, but with an idol and his number one stan, and it's fine. It's all right. I think it's funny for what it is. I also don't think it's as good as Kiss Him Not Me. Mainly because I like the characters in that one more. And also it's longer, so there's more time to do stuff. I do agree with you, Rin. I do like her comedy. I think she's quite self-aware with her making fun of BL comedy. But some of her other comedic stuff isn't that funny. I think she understands like superfan mentality enough to play that line very well, but so I can absolutely understand why you might dislike her comedy in general. But I do think her drama is effective. And unfortunately, there's not a huge amount of drama in this one. So basically, shenanigans ensues. And people keep finding out that they can switch bodies. A lot of people find out, considering it's only for a 4-volume series. But that's also because the main characters are too dumb to like keep it hidden for very long. And ultimately it's a romance, so they fall in love. Or well, kind of. They feel their feelings for each other, and it's important to how this whole mechanic works. Yes, it definitely sounds like a stalker thing. I don't know if you've ever come across, I'm sure you have. I think of like K-pop stans, but they exist in every fandom, especially bandoms and stuff that are like just so hyper focused on one person, and they know everything about their lives, and they wouldn't actually want to ever do anything. It's one of those like, I love them from afar, so they're not going to like come to their house and try to stab them so that they can like own them. It's not that kind of like weird stalker. Well, I mean, it's still weird, but it's not stalkerish behavior. It's more so like, this person I've idolized so much is like an actual literal god, and thus mere humans cannot perceive them in the correct way, and only I, as their most devout follower, understands this. So I must protect them from the world. I don't know. It's weird. I don't get it, but it's quite common, sadly. which sucks because, famous people are still people and they got shit going on in their lives. Anyway, it's sort of a romance. It was fine. Like, I didn't love it. It is getting a print release at some point. I'm not going to be picking it up. Although I do like the volumes 1, 2, and 4 all have like short spin-off chapters of Kiss Him Not Me. The first one is about the main character and the boy that she ultimately chooses from her reverse harem of boys. The second one is, I posted screenshots of it today, and that one is the BLTs, and that was good. I liked that. And then the last one was like, oh, what if the protagonist of Kiss Him Not Me and the protagonist of this series came across each other for a brief moment? What would happen? And you're like, oh, it was fine. It was fine. I thought there was like some okay elements in there. It's pretty typical Junko stuff. Again, playing around a lot with BL and tropes and that sort of humor, as well as like the obsessive fan sort of humor, which again was in Kiss Him Not Me. Like, Kay is definitely an obsessive fan, but she's an obsessive Fujo versus like one of these directioners or like believers or whatever, who's just like into a real person. Kay doesn't care about real people. She just wants to see boys kiss. So it's a little less, I don't know. Anyway, not really something I'm interested in picking up in print. It's fun to read for what it is. I'm hoping that her next series, whether it be shoujo, whether it be BL, is something more my speed. But yeah, I do like knowing that she has work and she's getting paid. So, and obviously it probably sold well enough that it is getting a print release. So good for her. I think I'll do a print release next. So the next thing that I read, well, these are in no particular order. So the next thing that I read was volume 4 of Wotakoi, Love is Hard for Otaku by Fujita. This is an ongoing, I think it's ongoing. I'm pretty sure this is still ongoing manga, webcomic, sort of. I think it's a Twitter manga, or at least started as a Twitter manga, about a bunch of people who are in relationships, but all of them are like super otaku in their own way. Man, this sounds kind of like what I was just talking about. No, they're not as creepy as that girl. So our main character, she is quite cute and a bit ditzy. But she in the beginning, she's starting at a new office. She had to change her office. She had to change where she worked because her boyfriend there discovered that she's actually a secret fujoshi and like super nerd. And he kind of got like weirded out about that. I think he might have spread rumors or told people about it. Either that or she was worried that he would. So she's like, I must find somewhere else. So because no one should know my secrets. I will never let, like, if people know about my hobbies, I'm undateable. Therefore, I will never let anyone that I'm dating learn about my hobbies. So she moves to this new office, and when she's there, one of her coworkers is actually a childhood friend of hers, and he's quite I don't know if stone-faced is the right word, but he's not very emotionally expressive, and he's kind of like tall, cool, glasses wearing, but constantly gaming, just all of the time. Everyone knows it. He's like famous for that around the office. He's always on his phone playing a mobile game. When he's at home, he's playing some sort of game, whether it be an online game, console game, whatever it is. And so she kind of like, they reunite, and recognize each other. They haven't seen each other since like maybe middle school, something along those lines. But she kind of latches on to him pretty quickly because she knows that he knows her secret, and so she can be her real self around him and complain about like how she will never have a boyfriend because of this, or like she can never let anyone find out about this if she wants to date anyone. And he, smooth talker that he is like, well, I already know and I don't care. Why don't you date me? And thus their relationship starts, and it's really good. It's a really good series. We also have this couple who are like they're co-workers. They're a little bit more senior, who this character, she's really into cosplay, especially crossplay, and she, again, like super into it. Really, also Fujo, little less obsessive than our main character, but she's like into it. And then her boyfriend is kind of a normie otaku. He's more so into just like popular shonen manga and whatever cool anime is on. So yeah, I've had this volume for a little while, but I hadn't gone around to reading it. And man, this series just always makes me smile. I know some people don't like some of the couples in there because there's also like another couple, which is so these are our main characters, right? In the back, he has a younger brother, and so there's also a romance, sort of, with another girl in this that focuses on them, and that's a lot of this book as well. So this book focused a lot on these two, a lot on the younger brother and Kokun, their relationship. Yeah, Naoko? Oh my god. Naokun and Kokun. And then, our main characters as well, but like a lot of it was focused on these two because there's a story arc about matching necklaces, and one of them loses it, he gets upset, and the other one can't really understand why, and then it leads up to a big thing, which I don't want to spoil, but it's pretty solid development. These two have been together for 10-ish years, so it's always nice to have some emotional growth with your characters. And then the other, like the two little university idiots, i.e. the younger brother and his gaming friend, are just so cute. They're so awkward and sweet and pure, and I love them. Narumi is definitely more like normal Fujo. And obviously Kei is meant to, in Junko's work, is meant to be like the extreme, right? But I think most Fujo are kind of just the normal type, like Narumi is. There's a particular part of this book where Narumi is late with, like, behind schedule on making her dojin for Komiket, and her boyfriend comes to like see her while she's struggling. He just wants to hang out and kind of like make sure that she sleeps and eats while she's pressing for this deadline. And it's quite funny because, she just is a total wreck. She's just not her normal self, and it's played quite funny. But yeah, the art is also really lovely. It has great comedic timing. I recommend the anime if you haven't seen it. It's streaming on Amazon Prime or Amazon Video or whatever it's called. And these books are really great. They're 2-in-1s. So this is actually like volume 7 and 8 of the series itself. Kodansha puts together quite a nice book with this. They include all the color pages, which is pretty cool. Oh my god, this first, look how cute they are. First of all, look how cute they are. Second of all, these color pages for the second half, they have the girls gender bending their boyfriends and then like plotting this entire Yuri crossover with their boyfriends, and then they gender bend themselves in their heads, and they talk about like they don't like BL themselves with each other. They then put their gender bent selves with their gender bent boyfriends to see how like the dynamic would change. It's really funny, and then they both get kind of pissed off at their male selves. And it's like, oh my god, what? They're conflicted because it's appealing, they like it, but also they're like, wait a minute, I just like straight up dissed myself. This is not cool, not really that fun. But also, yeah, I really love this series. The anime is great. I totally agree. 365801. I don't watch it that often, but I would really hope. I expect that Sentai probably has a license for it at some point. They're the ones that have been licensing a lot of Amazon Prime anime, right? So yeah, Wotakoi, Love is Hard for Otaku, Volume 4, i.e. Volume 7 and 8, is fun, funny, also like painfully relatable for nerds of all ilk, I feel, and just overall a good time. So yeah, Wotakoi. Then Aisha, welcome to the live stream. It's a good one. It's definitely a good series, and I probably should rewatch it. But then again, I have other stuff that I need to watch for the first time. Next one, I think I'll talk about a digital title. So sometimes a lot of these digital titles are things that are available in print. I just haven't bought them in print because I didn't know if I'd like them, or I didn't have the shelf space for them. So a majority of what I'm going to be talking about is going to be along those lines. But this one is actually digital only. It's put out by Leeds, which I think is also the Japanese publisher. It's a weird one because it's only available on Kindle, I think. And you buy like each chapter, there's 8 chapters in total, is like 99 cents, something along those lines, for the full 1-volume book. And that is Flight of the Butterflies by Kan Takahama. So this, as I said, is a single volume. It is a historical drama, seinen, about a geisha, one of the most like popular geisha in her particular club, and kind of her life, her past, why she is in this position that she is. It's really well done. This one's a little bit off, I think, people's radars just because it isn't put out by like one of the major English publishers, but it is definitely worth the read if you do like kind of historical drama and this period of Japanese history. It's just after it's kind of in this weird period when Japan was moving from isolationism to opening itself up to the world. If you read Oku, it's sort of that period of time. And so we follow this geisha and her various like day-to-day life with the other girls that she lives with, and then the very complicated relationship she has with her work, as well as with the various men who come to visit her, and one man and his son in particular. So we learn she has this ongoing relationship, friendship with a Dutch doctor, And through him, she asks him to I'm reading your comment, Archangel Monk. I don't know what you mean, like digital looking, insofar as, I mean, maybe. I need to think about it. Perhaps. It's not like geometric looking. It really plays a lot with heavy dark tones, and I feel like that could be digital. I don't know. I'm a bad person to ask. But we find out, so she's befriended this doctor who is now treating a Japanese doctor who has very serious onset brain cancer, who is being desperately supported by his son. And so we try to and who there then is kind of offered opportunity to learn medicine himself. And so you learn about the complicated relationship that she has with this doctor and why she makes choices that she does. It's really very good. Not super duper long. As I said, it's a single volume. It is one that you buy chapter by chapter versus just one book, which may be iffy for some people. And obviously 99 cents for a single chapter, some people might balk at, but it's one that I don't see ever getting a print release ever. So if it sounds interesting, it's not a huge commitment insofar as anything really, reading time, space, price. It is definitely worth the look. But yeah, I wanted to spotlight this one in particular because I did think that it's very interesting, very well done. It is a tragedy for the most part. It's sort of a hopeful tragedy, kind of in line with a lot of other historical drama of its type, and I enjoyed it very much. So give it a look. I think as I said, I think it's only available on Kindle. Might be on Bookwalker, but don't quote me on that because I bought it on Kindle. So I don't know. Yeah. So next thing, I don't know if I'm gonna have enough titles to go digital print, but I'm gonna keep going with this. I'm gonna save all the BL to the end, so if you're not interested, you can leave then. But next we have a spin-off volume, kind of a funny, I don't know if gag spin-off is quite the right word, but this is After School Hanako Kun. I put one with a question mark there because sources are telling me this is ongoing, but this doesn't have a number on its front. It doesn't have anything on a spine, anything like that. So I feel like it's only one volume, but the powers that be say it's ongoing. So I don't know. I'm sure you will. 365-801. So this is, so if you don't know, this is a spin-off of Toilet Bound Hanako Kun. This is basically the characters doing funny, goofy stuff, and being put in weird situations outside of the main dramatic plot line. Toilet Bound Hanako Kun is pretty funny in general. I think it does balance its drama and humor very, very well. This one is purely humor. So we have a whole bunch of weird and wacky scenarios that our characters are put in. I thought, because the first chapter or so is a lot of 4 coma, So I thought, like, oh, maybe this is just a 4 coma. But no, it's just that one chapter that has that. I don't know why. There's ongoing jokes about the moke, which are these, like, cute little bunny-looking spirits there. We have our main character, Nene, and her friends playing Kokuri-san. I posted pictures of this as well on Twitter. We have the villains doing goofy stuff together. There's a whole, again, I don't know why I swear I didn't have themes for this week's reading. But there's a whole segment where the characters like switch genders. Hanako Kun turns into a girl for a little bit, and then the main villain, she turns into a boy for a little bit. I don't know. There's some. It's just meant to be fun and wacky and silly and like not really anything super major going on. See, Hanako Kun is a girl. He's a cutie. But gets pretty goes pretty off the rails pretty immediately. I love Hanako Kun, the main story. This was a lot of fun. It's just like a good time seeing these characters doing weird stuff and like goofing off and enjoying themselves, because man, oh man, there hasn't been a lot of like fun, goofy stuff in the series recently. It's all been like depressing and like heart-thumping drama. And you're like, oh god, all these children. I'm so worried. I really loved, is it the last chapter? One of the last chapters. The last 2 chapters, the first of the last chapters is about the little sister of the Minamoto family, who's 5 and is just adorable and also super powered. And I just love her relationship with both her brothers, who are both important characters in the series. And then the last chapter is the little, like, the fox and her, like, new relationship kind of weird thing with another teacher at the school. It's quite funny how it plays out again. Like, should I keep saying a comedy is funny? I don't know. Maybe, because a lot of the times I don't find comedy very funny in manga. It has to be a very particular type. But if you enjoy the humor of the main... Oh, no, there's another... Sorry, I forgot there's another beach. There's a beach chapter at the very end of this. But if you enjoy the humor of the original Hanako Kun, this is more of the same. It gives you a lot of fun, goofy things to enjoy. I had quite a few laughs. And man, even though some of these jokes are like the premise is repetitive, it's still good. It still lands. Yeah, so really happy that we've gotten this spin-off licensed. I don't know if Yen Press has licensed the Volume 0. Maybe they have. I just can't remember, because there's so much manga all of the time. But if you haven't read Toilet Bound Hanako Kun, absolutely read it. I give it my 100% recommendation. I love it. It's wonderful. If you're already a fan of Hanako Kun, definitely pick up this one, especially if you're a fan of the comedic elements and these kids just goofing off and being weirdos. Yep, get it. It's good. And there's some pretty good jokes in this one, and I laughed quite a bit. So yeah, that was After School Hanako Kun. Maybe Volume 1, maybe the only volume. We shall see. I don't know. Then I think I'm gonna do 2 digital titles at once, because I'm not gonna have enough time so staying on the yokai front, this is a series that does have a print release from 7 Seas. I read it digitally because, again, I just don't have that much shelf space. And I also didn't know if I'd want this one in print. And it was fine. But this is Ghostly Things, volumes 1 to 3, the complete series by Ushio Shirotori. This is the story of a teenage girl who, under the encouragement of her father, who's like a folklore researcher, she goes to this haunted, abandoned house. Well, this house that's sort of out in the country that has all these rumors that it's haunted. She goes there and she is confronted by all of these weird and wonderful creatures that she's never seen before, and she discovers that, you know, she can actually perceive the spirits. But she's gone to this house under her father's instruction to find the Book of the Dead, in hopes that it will help her find her mother, who disappeared a couple years beforehand after looking for this book herself. And so, yeah, she's basically trying to find her mom. But what she does find there is this, like, spirit who helps ferry other spirits to the other side, to the far shore, if you would, into the place outside of the mortal or the mundane world. And so it's quite episodic. You kind of meet a new yokai, spirit, whatever, and there might be an issue. There might not be. Well, typically there's an issue, right? There wouldn't be a story if there wasn't an issue. But she helps, or she, like, discovers something about the situation, and then things get solved. And it's a whole bunch of that. And it's quite magical in how it does it. The artwork is great. It's solid for a 3-volume series. It definitely feels like in 3 volumes, it has a conclusion, but there's also a lot of elements that are left open, either because the series kind of came to a quick end, or, you know, it was canceled or whatever. Because, like, she doesn't actually find her mother. Spoilers for the series. But there is, like, she's learning more about the previous owner of this house, Tachibana, and she runs into these other people who can see spirits. So sort of like if you've seen or read Natsume's Book of Friends, he's sort of the Natori character, although kind of more obviously working for an evil group versus Natori, and less inherently invested and interested in this girl, compared to Natsume. So there's a lot of, like, similarities. I don't think it's, well, obviously, I don't think it's as well done as Natsume. I don't think the stories have as much, like, emotional punch, but it definitely has the otherworldly element that a lot of good yokai stories have. As I said, the art is beautiful, but kind of, I don't know if weird is the right word. I don't quite know how to describe it. It's all right. Like, it's not the best thing. I enjoyed it for what it was. I think the ending festival and what it symbolizes is very beautiful. I think there's a lot of really good ideas in there. And I do hope you enjoy it, Lasagna. Like, I don't hate it. I didn't think it was bad. I just don't think, like, I'm glad that I read it digitally versus buying it outright, despite it being a yokai manga, despite it being, like, something that should tick all of my boxes. It's good. It is good. I'm not saying it's bad. I did like it. It's like a, I don't know, 7 out of 10, which is still, like, a pretty decent grade. But I've enjoyed other yokai series that do a lot of these elements better. and some that are, well, most of which are a lot longer. And I do think that like the length had a lot of impact into how effective it could have been. But in saying that, I did think that our main character was pretty interesting. I did think like a lot of the development over the course of the series was okay. Because it was so short, it kind of jumped around a lot or like pushed through things without having time to settle into the setting, if that makes sense. But yeah, it's definitely a poor man's Natsume, and I would recommend that one like every single day, morning and night, like over this. But if you're wanting something short to the point that has like this sort of folklore and supernatural yokai element to it, it's not a bad choice, especially if you are someone who values like very highly detailed artwork. Absolutely, like go for it, knock your socks off. But for me, it was like, it was fine. It was good, fine. Not one that I'm like now itching to get in print to have on the shelf, because I don't know if or when I will revisit it. Because again, I follow a lot of stories of this type, and maybe I'm just like overly critical and picky. Maybe my tastes are a little bit more finesse than I expect, but yeah, it was okay. It was okay. Following with, I guess, in that same vein, it was okay, is the first volume of I'm the Cat Lords' Manservant by Rat Kitaguni. This is a new debut from Yen Press, also available in print. Yen Press? Yes, Yen Press. And this is the story of a high school boy who his parents die suddenly on a couple's retreat, both of his parents, and his father left him with a ton of debt. So this is very much like, well, not very, like the premise is a little bit different, but it reminds me of Kami-sama Kiss, where dad dies or like leaves child with a bunch of debt, but after the funeral, and his dad took out like a lot, like 50 grand or like 500,000 loans just before he died, so he has to pay off all of this debt. And so before the funeral's like even over and he sorted anything out, his house is torn down because, and it's just like there's a lot of this kid's got a lot going on. He hates his dad because he was kind of a serial, I don't know if he was actually like a serial philanderer, i.e. he had a whole ton of affairs, but he always constantly says that he made his mother cry, so he like really dislikes his dad. And I don't know, but he finds out, so his landlord gives him a letter from his father, and it's like, take this key to like Miyuki's place or something along those lines in this letter. And he's like, oh my goodness, like maybe my dad for once in his life did a good thing. Holy shit, maybe I can get help from this Miyuki, who might be this beautiful older woman who takes me in and looks after me. And so he goes to the house that the letter specifies, and it's like, hey, I'm here to give and he walks in, and, well, actually, no, he hears a crash behind the door before he knocks, and he bursts in, and there's 5 guys all like, I don't know, huddled and kind of fighting each other, and he's like, what's going on here? And then he discovers that one of these guys, in a very Kyoya-esque character type, is the Miyuki he's looking for. And he returns the key to this guy who, if you don't know what I mean by Kyo-esque, he, like, from Ouran High School Host Club, he's, you know, prim and proper, glasses, tall, always worried about money and the budget and whatever else. But to make a long story short, these 5 guys are all actually Bakeneko. So, like, goblin cats, gen yokai, shape-shifting magical cats, who were taken in by our main character's father shortly before his death because he loved cats. He freaking loved cats so much, and he took out all these loans to pay for this house that these 4 Bakeneko live in now. And so that's why he took money out, because he loved these cat boys so much. And then, well, cat men, for 2 of them at least. And then, yeah, so they figure out, so I don't even remember, like, what the whole deal was, but they tell him, like, up front, yeah, hey, we're Bakeneko, and he freaks the hell out, obviously. And it's like, what the hell? And then, because I don't really remember what the whole deal was, but at some point, somehow, this kid is brought into the family, or brought into the household, as their maid or, like, caretaker or whatever. He has to look after them, and they'll pay him, and so he's kind of desperate, obviously, because he literally has no family who wants to take him in. He has no home, and he has no money, and he's, like, 16 years old. So he's like, all right, because, like, oh, well, we'll pay you money, so you can stay here. You'll look after everything. You'll get room and board, and, well, food and board, and all that other good stuff. And yeah. And so that's what it is. And so we have our Kyoya character. I have the manga, actually, Rin. The manga is licensed, and it's available but it's only available digitally on the Crunchyroll app. I don't know if it's updated in 400 years, because I haven't read it in 400 years. It's not, like, my favorite thing, and I've read a little, or watched maybe the first season of the anime. It's fine. But yeah, so this guy is, like, this cat's maid, sort of, and then so we have our Kyoya character, who's, like, the one in charge. He looks after everyone else. We have another character, I don't remember any of their names, who is he's one of those fluffy cats, like, with the long hair, and in his human form he is, well, so the Kyoya character in his human form is a math teacher, and in his cat form is Russian blue, I think, a Russian blue. And then, yeah, so we have the long-haired cat, who's a host in his, like, human self, which makes sense. And he's also, like, always at odds with this teenage character, because he's always causing problems, or, like, he always gets wrapped up, and his stuff gets messed up the most by the shenanigans of the other cats. So, yeah, no. There's that. And then you have your 2 high school teenage boy cats. One who is, I don't know, he's some sort of black cat, and is a little bit all over the place. Very, like, sweet, cute, innocent, but also, like, the one with the least amount of sense to pretend to be a human. He tries to make friends with him by, you know, catching rats and stuff for him, and doing all sorts of cat stuff. And you're like, yeah, man, how have you not been discovered by humans yet? Like, literally, how? And then there's another teenage cat boy who is kind of I think he's a tomcat, which is not a type of cat, but like he's a stray. He was a stray. Yet we learn about his sad backstory, how he was almost taken to the pound, and before he was rescued, and he's. I do like him. He's quite like he looks like the tough guy, but he's like a big scaredy cat and also a big baby. And I thought that was pretty. Like I did like his story. I thought it was all right. And then there's another one who we haven't really learned much about yet, but so far confirmed cryptid. They think that there's a ghost in the house, but it's obviously the fifth cat. Like that is not surprising. And shouldn't be a shock because there's 5 cats in the opening chapter. So yeah, I mean, like it was fun. It was fine. It's a G fantasy series, I believe. So it's one of those series that like knows what it's doing, knows who it's selling to, and it was fine. Again, one that like is good at what it does. I'm happy it's a digital release read for me, but it is available in print for those who are interested in it. It's a bright yellow cover, which I think is nice. This is a weird thing to notice, but they even mention it in the books. Our main character has like quite thick eyebrows. And when I was reading it, I was like, man, I like that kid's eyebrows. They didn't say that they like his eyebrows in this, but I noticed that the charm point, I don't know what it was, but I was like, I like this character. I mean, I know nothing about them, but I think the art style is fine. It's pretty G fantasy style. So again, like it's not a must read. But it was fine. I didn't hate it. I think it's like silly and fun. And if you like these sorts of like boarding house, maybe it's a BL, but probably not fun, hijinksy sort of stories with the possibility of a lot of heart, a la Shonen Maid, which also has like, well, that one has an elementary school student as a maid and a whole bunch of other stuff going. There's no magical creatures in that one. What was that other anime that had like all the boys that were wives to the monsters? The anime is weird, guys. But it does remind me a lot of like those sorts of things. And if that's your jam, then have at it. You will enjoy this. So yeah. More digital. We need to get through more because I there's a lot. Done that one. Yeah, so another volume 1, which is Can't Stop Cursing You by Kensuke Koba and Natsuko Uruma. This is another Yen Press debut about a world where, I guess sort of in a Death Note-esque style, or maybe Future Diary style setting, people can have agreement or bond or whatever with I guess curses. They can become curse users or curse killers or something. Whatever the term was. And thank you. Oh, Jingai-san no Yome. This is the one with all the teenage boys were wives to little monsters. It's why is anime like this? Anyway, we're not talking about that anymore. We're talking about Can't Stop Cursing You, which is a completely different tone. It's a like dark thriller mystery, sort of supernatural. Again, sort of in the tone of Death Note or Future Diary or any of these things, where people can become curse users or curse killers if they make a deal with these like curse monster things, and they can kill whoever they want. There has to be like certain conditions, blah blah blah. And so our protagonist that we learn over the course of this first volume is a curse breaker. So he's brought in. He's one of the few that exist in this world, and that can actually like figure out who curse killers are, using other like weird magic curse stuff. So we're following this mystery at a high school. It's not a mystery to us because we know who's doing this, but we're following like the initial case and how the police and this curse breaker and etc. are figuring it out. So anyway, this isn't a spoiler because this is the first volume and there's likely going to be a lot of other characters and things going on. But so this one kid in the school is now a curse killer, made a deal, and so he thinks that he's in a light Yagami-esque style, thinks that he's too perfect, that no one will ever know it's him, that he can get away with whatever he wants because everybody loves him. He's so nice and smart and wonderful, and he's gotten away with everything his whole life because he's been playing this role of like the perfect person, the perfect son and friend and classmate and whatever else. And the only one who knows his true terrible self is his twin brother who's in the hospital. And you're like, oh my god, what's going on? Anyway, so he gets this power to curse people and aka kill them, by using this weird app on his phone. And so if you get this, and it will send a call to whichever number you put in there, and if the person answers the call, then they will die. Like they will die from this curse. They've been cursed, they will die. So he's like super thrilled. He loves being able to kill people. I don't know what it is. All these like smart, affluent, well-loved people, their lives are too boring. We need to get them applying themselves to some things. You know what they need? They need to fail. This is how we're getting all of these narcissistic killers. Honestly, they need to fail a couple times. Put them in something they're not good at, so they can't just coast through and think that they will literally get away with murder. But so he kills a classmate, he kills a teacher, and then we discover / we know, because this is how the book opens, but we discover that the science teacher is actually this curse breaker who's been sent in by some weird shadowy force that controls him. And so he is helping police narrow down the suspects, and our main, like the curse guy, he thinks that he's got the in on it, so like he knows what's going on, so he thinks he can get away with everything. And then so he keeps, one, he gets a thrill from killing people, but two, he's been given this condition from this curse god or whatever, that he has to kill 30 people in 30 days or else he will die, or something bad will happen. I presume he will die. So he's like, hell yeah, let's do this. Let's go. It's pretty crazy. Like, there's a lot going on. And as the audience, like, we know who the bad guy is. And you would presume that you would expect that our main character will figure out who the bad guy is. But it is quite interesting to see, like, again, sort of in like a Death Note-esque way, to see how the different ways that the curse can take, and like different strategies to try and throw investigators off the case and stuff like that. Yeah, that's our the curly black haired guy is the protagonist. He's this curse breaker guy. He also smokes some weird pipe thing, and I don't remember what it was. They made a note that it wasn't tobacco, but I don't remember what it was. He does look a lot like many shaggy-haired characters. But yeah, it's pretty good. Like, if you like this sort of cat and mouse game, supernatural mystery thing, if you just want something to fill the hole in your heart after Death Note or Future Diary or the other myriad of series that are this premise, then check it out. Another one that I'm probably going to just stick to digital for, because it's good. I liked it, but it wasn't like, didn't change my life. It's just all right. It's fine. Yes, like getting his comeuppance was absolutely so satisfying, and I get concerned for people who think that Light was a good guy because there's people out there who are like, yeah, this is fine. I'm like, nope. No, it concerns me that you think that, and I do not want to stand near you. Please never talk to me ever again. So I feel like if you enjoyed the comeuppance of Light in Death Note, it's not as drawn out in all of these. Well, there's only one like story arc in this first volume. It's a self-contained introductory volume. But if you liked that mystery solving element and seeing bad people who are like literally having fun getting other people murdered get their comeuppance, then maybe check out Can't Stop Cursing You. I think there's 3 volumes out in Japan right now. So it's not super duper long. Maybe there's more. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a crazy person. Let me see if yeah, 3 volumes. Man, I'm good. So, yeah, it was good. I liked it. If it sounds like your thing, check it out. Because it is available in print as well as digitally. I just prefer to try like new series unless they're from a creator I already know I love, or like it's definitely something I will enjoy digitally versus print, and it's also convenient, I think, as well. I think I'll talk about another. So okay, I have 1, 2. Okay, yeah. Oh, that's all right. So next is a print book. This is also a debut, but one that I bought in print because I knew that I would love it, because I love this creator. I love her other work. So super excited when this was licensed and announced, and that is Die Dark by Q Hayashida. This is put out by 7 Seas. Really, really beautiful book. I'm kind of sad that it's their small trim. Does 7 Seas have? Yeah, 7 Seas has a large trim. So I wish it was that, but at the same time, it is a really high quality release. Really love it. So I haven't read Love of Kill yet. I've bought it. I haven't read it yet. So I'm sure next week I will be talking about it. But Die Dark is the most recent series from Q Hayashida, who, if you're not familiar, is the creator of Dorohedoro, a series that I love. It is really wonderful. Highly recommended. The anime is pretty wonderful too. But this is a science fiction I guess, like, dark action in the same sense that, like, Dorohedoro was a fantasy dark action. I don't really know how to phrase her works because, okay, they're hyper violent, hyper, like, grotesque, or gory, maybe. But also, they're just, like, really heartwarming and funny and really full of lovable characters. Dorohedoro, for, like, as much as it's about, like, ripping a spine out of a character and, like, punching his face in and then seeing all his skin melt off, it's also like, oh, hey, we're a found family of a bunch of weirdos, and sure, life is hard, but we all have each other, and you're like, God damn it, I love him so much, what the hell? And then it has really, like, wholesome male-female friendships and romance and just general relationships, and I love all of it. I love it. So then I was like, hell yes, I need to get Die Dark. So this is the story. I will read you the back. I haven't done that for any of the other ones, so it was fine. Necromancy, space action, and dark humor collide in this wildly creative new series from the creator of Dorohedoro. Zaha Sanko's body has a great and terrible power. They say that possessing his bones will grant you any wish, even the desire to become ruler of the universe. But Sanko is still a teenage dude with his own life, and he isn't about to let every monstrous lowlife in the galaxy rip him limb from limb. He and his skeletal buddy, Avakian, will use their dark powers to fend off any murder attempts while they search space for whoever put this curse on Sanko's bones, because killing them might end the madness. And then Sanko can celebrate with his favorite spaghetti. Don't miss this hilariously twisted and gruesome new series from the unique mind of Q Hayashida, creator of the manga and Netflix anime Dorohedoro. So yeah, basically is that. There's quite, like, man, Q Hayashida has some character types that she likes. Sanko looks a lot like Shin, so from Dorohedoro. Also, like, I didn't realize he's 14. I thought he was older than that. I didn't know how old he was, but he's a little boy. He is a small child. I'm like, oh no, my poor boy. It's really cool. If necromancy and space action should absolutely sell you on this premise. But yeah, very, like, this is very much what Q Hayashida loves to do. So we're kind of introduced to this premise and the fact that people are trying to kill this guy, like our protagonist, because he might have immortality and be able to grant any crazy wish. And so there's just a lot of violence, a lot of blood and guts and gore, in typical Hayashida style. As I said, our boy, he looks a lot like Shin. What a good small child. There's also another character, Death, who looks a lot like Nikaido. Again, Q Hayashida knows what she likes. She is into certain aesthetics and to certain body types. Everyone could kick my butt, and I would pay them to do so. If you like freaky, creepy monster designs and character designs, if you liked the wild and weird world of Dorohedoro, absolutely check out this series because it is wonderful. I loved it. And it was the thing with, like, Dorohedoro as well, is that like, I didn't even know what to really expect with Dorohedoro, but like it was pretty immediate with like how much and how immediately I fell in love with the characters, and this is more of the same. I know that I'm gonna really enjoy this one. So we're introduced to this whole premise of like he's on the run because everyone knows his name, and if they find out he is who he says, if they find out who he is, then they will try to kill him to have his bones and his body and whatever else. And so it's a whole bunch of fighting, and he has a special, I guess, kind of magic spacesuit, black magic thing. I don't really remember what it's called. Black Pocky something. It's got a thing. Special Paggy, the Dark Paggy, which is like his outfit, but maybe not. Maybe that's not. And his friend, his skeleton friend, who is kind of his guardian as well. It's funny. It's fun. I mean, again, I knew that I would like this, so it didn't even cross my mind to not order this and read it, and it was just as great as I thought it would be. I loved it, and I love Kyu Hayashida. Definitely read Dorohedoro if you haven't, and laugh and cry and like have your heart fill with love for all of the weird and crazy characters at the same time that they decapitate like 10 dudes. I promise you will be surprised. So, a couple more digital titles before I get to the last like normal quote unquote print manga that I have, and then I'll get into the BL. So I read 1 to 3 of A Gentle Noble's Vacation recommendation, which is all that's out. This is put out by Tokyo Pop. It's by the manga's done by Momochi. It's based off of a web novel by Misaki and original character designs by Sando. And it is the story. It's kind of an isekai, sort of. It's about this noble who is magically transported to another fantasy. He's a noble from a fantasy world. He gets isekai'd to another fantasy world. He doesn't really know how it happens or where it happens, or like one day he was just in his office and next second he's in the middle of a street. Like, where? And we find out later that he was actually the prime minister of this country that like he'd come from, and he has this magic gun and all this stuff. But now, so he's adrift in a strange, but not that strange, fantasy world, which may or may not be his own world, but in the future and or past. And he's like, well, I don't really know how to get back. I don't really know like how I got here. So rather than worrying about it, how about I just take a vacation? How about I just take the time to, chill? I just need a break from being a prime minister for a little while. And so he decides to team up with the area's only solo B-class adventurer, Gil. And they become a buddy partnership duo team. And they go on adventures, and it's quite gay. This, like, holy shit. Whatever, Lizelle is our main character. He's got his bodyguard partner in crime, Gil, who's also, like, they're definitely holding hands under the table. But then he also, like, there's these two younger guys. There's a shop owner. And there's like the guy who works at the Adventures Guild. He has his whole harem of boys. And then because he's actually a noble, he knows how to schmooze with all the other nobles. So everybody's interested. He very obviously looks like a noble, but he has the Adventure Guild like registration to prove that he's not. So he causes waves. He causes waves wherever he goes, but he's just kind of curious about everything, and he's very, learned and well spoken and intelligent and curious about this new world. So he's discovering all these new things, and he has the means to find ways to make money or to sell his various items to make other money. And he's just like, yeah, I'm just an adventurer. And everyone's like, you're really obviously not just an adventurer, mate, but no one can do anything about it. Meanwhile, at the end of book 3, we find out that his friends, i.e. the king, and like his other people back home are like, he's gone! Where has he gone? The prime minister has disappeared. Imagine if you were like, imagine if you were a ruler of a country, and then all of a sudden, like, one of your advisors just fucking disappeared. Someone else was in the room and was like, 1 second was there, just, I know we live in a magical world, but like, where? How? Where? Huh? That would freak you out. But yeah, so it's basically, very heavy on the bromance elements. It's a BL without outright saying it's a BL. Well, maybe it's a reverse harem, but all of the members, including the protagonists, are male. Maybe. If you're into it, it's decently good. Art's pretty nice. I'd be interested to read the novel because there seems to be a lot like, I don't know. I'm just a novel reader anyway, but I liked it. It was fun. Tokyo Pop, I only read the digital release, but seemed pretty solid from everything that I've know of the release, and it's fun. If you like kind of magical is maybe not the right word. If you like kind of a isekai ish idea without just being like the typical male power fantasy, it kind of reminds me of what I wanted. Not what I wanted, but the vibe of it is similar to what I was hoping for from The Last Alchemist to Survive, Lives a Quiet Town Life, or whatever the hell that series is called, which it's not, because I hate that series because it has it has surprise slavery, and I hate that, and I wish it didn't have that. This does not have surprise slavery. In fact, it has very good partner in crime, maybe romance, also 2 younger boys who are like, I would do anything for you, and I please let me bask in your presence. And also, he's just really pretty. Like, it's fun. It's a good time. It's not like gonna change your life, but it's exactly what it sets out to do, right? Like, it's exactly what you're paying your money for. So, as I said, I'd be interested to see how the novels are written and handled. If it's more obvious, if it's less obvious, who knows? I don't know. But it's pretty obvious. Changing tact. A very, very, this is the last digital read that I had. You're welcome. I'm sorry, I had a lot of digital stuff to talk about. But this is Levias by Haruhi Nakata. This is another one that has a digital print release. Pardon me. It's originally a 3-volume series. It's released by Viz in like a thick 3-in-1 hardcover edition. This was interesting. Like, I didn't really know what to expect with Levias. Very cinematic, like beautiful artwork. It reminded me a lot of like a European comic. It just felt like a movie in a lot of different ways. So Levias is about it also, the premise, not exactly, but it reminded me of a lot of Technolize, the anime. Levias is the story of a 16-ish year old boy who lives in this, I guess, steampunk-esque alternate history world where, because of industrialization and because of some weird war that happened, very, maybe it's World War One. Well, no, it's not. It wouldn't be, because this is like 1865 or something. A war happened, and so our main character, he has a prosthetic arm, an automail arm, if you wish. And I'm not just saying that; that's what they call it in the book. And so during the war, his hometown was attacked by the, troops, military, whatever. And that's when he lost his arm. It's also his mother got caught in the crossfire, or, destruction, trying to protect him. And so now she's in a critical condition. She's been in a coma for the last 2 years or 5 years or 5 years. And his father died in the war. He was a rebellion leader or something. But so he moves to the big city to live with his uncle, his father's brother. And when he's there, he learns about like mechanical martial art fights, or it's what if Technolize and or Megalobox, but in industrial era Europe. That's the premise. And then so yeah, he fights, he punches people, he's a pretty good fighter, and he's fighting all these fights. He's like goes up the ranks pretty quickly, and then he gets chosen for this particular matchup because there's obviously a ranking system, and someone in the highest ranks died, I think, and so that an opening has opened up, and he's chosen as the challenger for the number one in like the second rank. And there's the whole fight with that, and we learn about this mysterious military group who is creating much more powerful, advanced mechanical prosthetics and all of this technology that was used in the war and could have killed. And so there's this other top fighter who has this military stuff, and we find out it's this girl who's a child soldier who became this amazing fighter against her will in order to protect her younger brother. And so there's all this stuff. It's like actually quite good. I was surprised how much I enjoyed it. A lot of that was facilitated by the fact that I did, man, the art style and like the way that this comic was told without a lot of words was just really effective. It was very beautifully done. But then it also got into stupid territory. It got to a point midway through the second volume where they introduced like the villain, this medical military scientist guy Dr. Clown, and he looks like a clown. You get it? He looks like a clown, and he is. And I was like, oh, why? Why you gotta put this bullshit in? Like, obviously, there's a lot of weird anime kind of elements that aren't totally unique in this series. But the execution was really good. But then they put in dumb bullshit, and I was like, man, my interest level like fell 15% just right there. It felt like the cringy like current era Joker current era Joker from the Batman. I could not take it seriously. I laughed when I first saw the character design. I was like, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. And it kind of soured that whole last half of the series. Or, yeah, because this is a prequel-ish. It was continued as Levias Est. I think that's finished now. Maybe not. I don't know. And so I am interested in continuing it. I legitimately was impressed by a lot in the comic, but man, that second half. It's only 18 chapters long for this like beginning prequel stuff. And 9 of those, like 8 or 9 of those chapters is when like the stupid stuff starts happening, like the overtly stupid stuff that I couldn't take seriously. And I had to shake my head and just go, this is you had such a good thing. And yeah, sometimes it was dumb, but also I just didn't. You could have gotten away with not doing that, and it would have been interesting. So yeah, Levias is a beautiful release. Color pages, hardcover, stupidly thick 3-in-1. It's like 600 something pages, so that may impact your buying decision, but it is worth the read if nothing else. I liked it for what it was. I would have liked it more if the second half was a little less overtly stupid. But yeah, so that. And that's all of the digital manga, I think. Yes. So last general quote-unquote manga is, of course, the next 3 volumes of Holic, which is 11, 12, and 13. 11, 12, and 13. Man, things are heating up in Holicverse in these volumes. We're getting more I guess the things are starting to slip for Watanuki. A lot has happened. A lot has happened to this poor boy over the course of the series. His relationship with his friends is stronger. His grip on himself and his memories of himself are starting to. He's starting to more obviously remember or not remember. Notice the things about himself that shouldn't, like, he should know or like should bother him more. Aisha, I see you. Welcome back. This whole couple volumes kind of wraps up the, what is her name? The little girl. Kohane, the little girl medium who's sort of their friend, who's like basically being abused by her mother so she can keep making money on TV for her. It wraps up that whole story arc. I think it's done very, very well. We do see more obvious crossover with Tsubasa in these volumes, so much so that Watanuki and Sakura are visiting each other in each other's dreams. Whereas girl, where are you? Here she is. Like, so you have these characters interacting with each other more obviously. It still says, like, in the beginning, you don't have to read any of Tsubasa to understand, and like, you don't have to read it. But I also think the fact that I know a lot about Tsubasa probably does help. These are some, despite it more obviously crossing over with Tsubasa, despite there being like a lot more, Tsubasa stuff, bullshit going on. These are some good freaking volumes of this comic. Watanuki, holy shit, dude. Like, I knew going in that about certain things about his character, but man, he is this poor guy. And in us again, once again, not to compare, but I made this comparison before. He's a little bit more of a feistier Natsume Takashi from Natsume's Book of Friends. And like, they can both see spirits. They both have a hard time connecting with people initially, and they grow into each other, into themselves, with their various interactions with humans and the otherworldly. And Watanuki in this volume, compared to volume 1 Watanuki, it's not that he was a bad or mean or like any of that. He was pretty well liked, very accomplished, smart, good cook, good sportsman, whatever, self-reliant kid. But the way that he interacts with people, the way he I guess tries to help people more and gets involved in their lives more, and the way he shows gratitude towards people and cherishes his human connections now is it. Oh my god, so much Tsubasa bullshit. Is just done really well, really beautifully. I only want good things for Watanuki because he deserves them. And I'm glad that he realizes now that other people value him and cherish him and care about what happens to him. And yes, he becomes more socialized as he grows. Absolutely. And again, you see the parallel with, from that, how he's able to show care and want to help Kohane more than he would have maybe necessarily if he was the same as he was at the beginning of the series, where he didn't want to get involved in supernatural things. It's good. It's good volumes, and I only have six volumes left of this original series, and then there's the 4 volumes of Ray. I'm kind of dreading this being over because, one, I know things, and I'm gonna be upset. I'm already like, the dread is in my gut, and I want good things to happen, and I know that not all good things happen. I just honestly, like, I don't want anything bad to happen to any of the teens. Like, any of the Yuko is her interesting self, and I don't want bad things to happen to her either, obviously. But like, if anything happens to these teenagers, I will straight up go to Japan and like write a very tersely worded letter to Clamp and be like, how dare you? How dare you do this to me? And of course, the sequel is on hold, on hiatus, and I'm Clamp. Yes, very well put. I think there's something just really interesting about seeing these people who are act a certain way because of the position they're in, and seeing them become more comfortable with themselves and interacting with other people and realizing that people, again, value them. It's something that I love in Not So Many Book Friends, something I've loved throughout this series. Aisha, did we ever doubt? Holic is my one caveat to my frustration with Clamp, in that I love it, and despite its bullshit, which it does have, like, don't get me wrong, it's just so good despite that I don't even care. Well, there's a scene where Watanuki wakes up, because the being lost in dreams thing is, like, also terrifying. I'm worried, man. I'm worried. Where is it at the beginning of... There's a certain scene where he wakes... it must be the end of this one. Where he wakes up from a dream and is crying on his bed, and I, like, my heart was in my throat. There's when he's in a dream talking to the boy that he found his bones, and my heart was in my throat. I just... I don't know whether I want to read all the rest of the 6 volumes that I have left, like, now, this week, to talk about for next week, or if I just want to just never come back to it. No, I can't not, because if I just don't want to be left in dread forever, right? But also, I kind of also don't want to have to wait like 400 years before I can start writing. This one, I found it. He wakes up, and it's from the dream that I just said, where he's talking to the bones, and he wakes up and he's crying, and I was like, man. But I don't want to have to wait, because I have my volumes of Ray, but I have them in the loosest sense of the word, because I have them at my US proxy. So I can't continue until I'm probably going to read all the rest. I just don't know how to pace myself. Holic is really good. And we know my general feelings on Clamp and their works, and despite respecting them, how much I dislike most of their stuff, for, I think, pretty valid reasons. Like, I don't think any of my complaints are maligned, right? I think they're pretty suitable complaints. But see, Aisha, you say that, I'm gonna, maybe there'll be a volume where it's like, please, like volume 17 is like, please read volume, I don't know, 20 of Tsubasa, and I'll be like, how dare you make me read this crap? And I say that because, like, I don't understand how, like, Tsubasa was the more popular of the two, to be honest. Maybe it's because there's more crossover bullshit in Tsubasa than there was in this. Because there's still crossover bullshit, but it's not as much. Maybe the super fans didn't like that there wasn't a lot of references. And I will probably read Tsubasa at some point, because that's the thing, is that I've seen the anime for Tsubasa, so again, I know the general premise. I know it goes way off the rails and jumps the shark and just bursts into flame and has this crashing finale, and everyone's like, "What the hell is going on?" Comparatively to Holic, which I think is a little bit more cohesive, at least. But like, I like the premise of Tsubasa. I think the idea is interesting. I like the characters, Fi and the other guy, and Sakura and Sharon. Mokina can die, but all the rest are fine. And see, that's the thing. Tsubasa's going to be the next one that gets the hardback, like, collector's edition. And I want it to be Holic because that one deserves it more. But I'm sure they are. I'm sure they are really beautiful. All of their hardcover and kanzeban and stuff are just gorgeous. Thank you, Kuragane, that guy. Yes, the very popular Kurafai. Tsubasa interests me is a premise because it's like heartbreakingly tragic, but also it opens you up to having all of these incredible adventures. And if nothing else, Clamp knows how to make a series that will like be able to be spun out for 300 volumes longer than it needs to, so they can fit as much of their bullshit in there as they can and reference every iota of a speck of an idea that they've ever thought of. But yeah, maybe after I finish, maybe I read Tsubasa after I finish Holic. Well, in the interim, until I can read more Holic. Maybe. I think I have it digitally. I need to check. I have so much unread stuff on my Kindle, or on my digital device. Holy moly, guys. It's a lot. But yeah, I haven't read that. We're not talking about that. I mean, we have been, but we're not talking about that because we are talking about Holic and how good it is and how I'm going to cry at the end. I don't even know if it's a sad ending, really, but I'm gonna cry and be like really sad that it's over, and then probably rewatch the show, even though it's a really terrible, well, not terrible, bad looking, cheaply done adaptation. And everyone looks really weird because Clamp character design just doesn't work in animation. Man, noodle legs, holy moly. And also just be sad that we never got like season 2 of the anime licensed in English. They only ever did the first season for some reason. I don't know why. And there's a bunch of OVAs and things that adapt later parts. But yeah. I've heard good things about the Tokyo OVAs. I mean, the music is good in the original series. I just don't really remember anything about the specifics of Tsubasa. It's basically like, oh, we need to find one of Sakura's feathers. And Mokuna's like, I know where one is. I can sense it. And they end up in some bizarre world, which is a reference to a series from 23 years ago that they thought up and half remembered, and then you're like, oh man, in this episode they're working a cafe. Isn't this funny? Everyone's wearing an apron, and you're like, ho, 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 ho. And then they kind of get like involved in there, and then some weird bullshit's going on, and you find out it's magic from one of the feathers, and they go get the feather, and that's a memory, and something shower. Oh my god, there's so much bullshit in that series, but needless to say, I'll get to it at some point. So yeah, and then that's all my quote unquote normal manga. I do have some BL, both of which are in print. So if you're not interested in that, maybe bye. Thanks for stopping in. Glad you could hang out with me for almost 2 hours. I know I talked about a lot of different things, but for those brave enough to handle my terrible tastes in BL, well, no, some good taste, but also just like one, just don't worry, I judge me. Is we shall continue. So first up is the actually good title, BL title. Actually good. That's rough and mean to say, but like not incorrect. And that is Therapy Game by Meguro Hinohara. This is the sequel, volumes 1 and 2, the complete series. Although it does have a ongoing sequel, which also focuses on these characters. This itself is a spin-off of Secret XXX or Secret XXX, which is about the brothers of these characters and their relationship, which is pretty like straightforward and cute and fine. Yes, I did get a good volume 2. Thank you 365801 for asking. It was fine. I got a good copy. I think I would expect that most places have the fixed copy now. So this is a story of these two boys who this is the older brother of the main character of the original series, and this is the younger brother of the boyfriend of that series. And so one night, after this guy gets dumped by his girlfriend, he gets drunk, and his friends like take him bar hopping and leave him at like a drag bar, kind of, one of the host bars, but all of the hosts are trans women and or men in drag, gay men in drag typically. And then which is where this guy's brother like works not as an entertainer or like a host, but as like the bodyguard. And so this guy's like very obviously gay and out. This guy is presumably I think he assumes he's straight, but then they spend a night together. And he wakes up in bed with this guy, and he doesn't remember anything that happened. And the way that he's acting is like, oh my god, what? Ooh, I really was drunk. But he admits that he didn't remember like anything that happened, and that pissed off this guy. And you find out later that nothing happened, sexually at least. But it annoyed him so much that he's like, I will. He makes a bet with the ladies at this club, the entertainers, hosts, whatever you want to call them, and that he can seduce this man, this straight man, but catches feelings. Feelings are caught, and thus drama ensues, because then our other character finds out that there was a bet, but he's already also caught feelings because he thought that the relationship was real, and man, drama. There's a lot of spiciness in this. This is also one of the titles that is uncensored from Sublime, so like spicy. And I like these characters a lot. I think they have a pretty fun dynamic to read, even when they're kind of like doing this fake dating thing, but having caught feelings and trying to figure out their feelings. And you learn more about backstory of this character and like why he acts the way he does. There's a lot of drama in his family history, and man, it's just done well. Like I think Hinohara Sensei knew that this is the more interesting couple, which is why the spin-offs are all focused on them. I liked it a lot. It was a good follow-up. Even if you didn't inherently love like the original book, I would, and you don't mind like kind of a little bit of messy drama. It doesn't prolong it. I mean, you can't really prolong it in a 2-volume series anyway. But yeah, it's good. I liked it. Pretty sexy. I like their relationship and the way they interact. I also like. I still don't like. I still find the premise that this guy and I guess the protagonist and the other, their parents are like zoo veterinarians and a zoo trainer, so they just have like servals in their home, like their pet servals. I'm like, what? How? Oh, I don't think you're allowed to have those as pets, but it's fine. Aisha, I do think the original, I do think even if you weren't like, yeah, this is an improvement over the original. I liked it a lot more. And I did like the original. It wasn't my favorite thing, but it was sweet and to the point and pretty, like, effective. But this one is sultry, man. And also, like, good feelings. Hard-hitting, good emotional stuff. Yeah, I'm not sure with like how stock is going, especially because obviously reprints are so like iffy at right now anyway. But this, I also got my copy. Where did I get my copy? I think I got my copy from Book Depository. I don't really remember. It was one of the. I don't want to speculate because I don't actually remember. It might have been through Booktopia, which is an Australian bookstore. But yeah, Aisha, I recommend this. It's got a lot of very good stuff in it. I liked it a lot. I'm trying to find pages where there isn't uncensored dicks on them, because there's plenty of those pages. And I can't show that. Well, I mean, I could show that on a stream, but I don't need to show that on a stream, do I? And I think I really like this character. I think he's pretty interesting. Obviously as the straight man, literally like straight bisexual character. His understanding of the relationship and coming to terms with the relationship is really interesting to see. And then the insecurities of our other character and like how he deems this relationship and why he doesn't get close to people and has a really hard time trusting people and building relationships. I just think it's dang good. And also the artwork is really lovely. And also really sexy, if that's what you're into. Which honestly, like, why would you not be? This is very satisfying. Hinohara is a good artist, and I'm really looking forward to Therapy Game Repeat. I don't know. It's a sequel to this. It's when they're like an established couple or like, you know, properly dating or whatever. And again, I think this creator knows that these are the more interesting characters. the other two, the brothers, like got together super easy, and they didn't have much to worry about, and so we presume they have a happy, healthy, relationship with no drama and very little like in the ways of misunderstandings or whatever. They're just smitten. Whereas this is like, there's a lot of good meat in it. And I don't mean that as a euphemism. I mean that as like, it's got a lot to get into and explore, and to appreciate with it. That would be pretty cool. Like, I'm not a tattoo person, but I feel like a subtle fandom-y thing like that, because he has a foot tattoo, doesn't he? I think so. Is a good, wait, where I just saw the info page. Where is your info page? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Aish, I said it wasn't a euphemism. But yeah, Therapy Game is good, and I recommend. I believe the sequel was licensed at the same time. I'm pretty sure the sequel is licensed at the same time. If it wasn't, I'd be surprised if Sublime didn't license the sequel, because that would seem counterintuitive, because I would presume this is a good seller. I hear, like, everyone that I know who's picked it up is very positive about it, and sales are doing really well, and I would suspect that sales of this would be doing very well. So I'd be surprised if we didn't. I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't get the sequel to this. I don't know how long the sequel is going to be, but I will read it if and or when we get it in English legally. I don't know if it's been scanned, but we don't care, because we don't talk. We don't read scans. She doesn't read scans. She's a good girl. She doesn't read any of that. Finally, I'm going to expose myself as the true trash that I am. The last thing that I read, well, no, sadly, maybe, this was the first thing that I read this week, because I received it and I was like, oh my god, I need to read this immediately, because it's trash, but it's my trash. And I needed to read it immediately, because I am too invested and I want to know what happens. And so I read The World's Greatest First Love, Volume 14, The Case of Ritsu Onodera. And so this is an ongoing title by Shungiku Nakamura, same creator as Junjo Romantica, which, by the way, I will asterisk, I fucking hate that series a lot. So it's not like I'm a huge fan of this creator. I didn't like Hybrid Child. There's also creepy vibes. 26581. I do think that we can admit that this is not high quality literature. But I'm just in too deep. I'm too invested in these idiots, and more so because I don't know, man. I don't know. Something about the way, like, the idea of that this story, like, the premise. So, okay, if you don't know what this is, congratulations. Like, you have avoided this. So this is the story of Ritsu Onodera, who in his youth, in his childhood, was he like 14, 15? He was in love with his senpai, right? He he just loved this older boy from afar, just like infatuated. He read every book that he saw him read at the library. He just always like was watching him. He was creepy, like stalker. But ultimately we learn that they dated. They dated for a little while. His senpai was a couple years older than him, and they dated, but pretty early. They only dated for like a little while, maybe a month, not even that. But they both, unbeknownst, I mean, so his senpai, Suga senpai, he kind of like knew that this younger guy was following him and like watching him and all that, and like, dude, why are you stalking me? This is kind of creepy and weird. But they date for a little while, and they have actually a lot in common. And surprisingly, like, the senpai character falls pretty hard and fast for this other guy as well. But one day they are trying to intimate a physical relationship. Something happens. Something happens. Someone laughs or does something, and it causes a misunderstanding. And Ritsu is heartbroken. And then they break up in this really dramatic way. Then that they don't actually talk to each other, and he runs away out of the house. And it's so dramatic. And he's so heartbroken that he's like, I can never show my face at school again. And he tells his parents that he's like, yes, I do want to study abroad. So he moves immediately to England to study and all this stuff, right? So his first love 10 years ago ended in disaster from his perspective. So he's like, I will never love again. That was the worst decision of my life, and I will never love again. No, I'm not that stupid. Yeah. So anyway, now it has been 10 years. He is in his early 20s. And he's returned to Japan, has been back in Japan, and he's been working for a publishing company owned by his parents' family, or his parents. But he's like a very accomplished editor there. He really loves working in the publishing industry, but he keeps getting he keeps overhearing his coworkers saying that he hasn't gotten to his position on merit, and that it's just like a bunch of nepotism and favoritism. And so he's like, screw you guys. I'm going to prove that I do deserve this job, and I should be like, I love being an editor, and you're not, changing that and whatever else. Yes, holy shit, this is the slow burn of a century. Not really, but like also absolutely. And then so he quits his job at his parents' publishing house, and he gets a job at a rival publishing house. And they're like, great, fantastic, absolutely, you're hired. And he's like, okay. But he kind of presumes that he'd be going into the literature department because that's where he was before. But no. They don't need editors for literature. They push him to Emerald. Yeah, the Emerald Shoujo Manga magazine, which obviously is a shoujo manga magazine. And he is becoming a manga editor, but he's never read manga. He doesn't, especially not shoujo manga. He just doesn't really know like what makes a good manga at all. And obviously shoujo manga, a lot of us focus on like high school love and first love. So he's like really not happy and like, oh my god, why? But his boss, the head editor, he's like really gruff. just doesn't seem like he'd be a shoujo manga editor, but he absolutely turns sales around for the magazine. He's fantastic at his job. He's great at writing or helping these creators make the best of their story, blah, blah, blah. He's really respecting him, respects him for that, his work ethic and everything else. And so despite hating this job, he's really trying to stick it out to prove to everyone that he can do this. But then he finds out, he discovers that his boss is actually his ex-boyfriend from 10 years ago. And so they are reunited, and he finds out that this other boy has been in love with him this whole time, and there's been it was actually a whole misunderstanding, and he'd never meant to break his heart, and this thing that he's been worried about for 10 years wasn't actually that serious, and maybe he has another chance, especially because this guy who was his first love still likes him so much, and they're very extremely sexually compatible because they just constantly are having sex. This is for people who aren't in a relationship, they having a lot of sex. But Ritsu, he's still so hurt, he can't admit that he will ever fall in love, and he's commit to being stubborn. So that's the story. And it's a lot of, I call it trash insofar as it's way better than Junjo Romantica, but it is of that era of pushiness is for the sake of we know that the character saying no, but we as the audience knows that they actually mean yes, which is not very problematic, and thankfully not as popular in BL as it was in the 90s and early 2000s, but it's in this, especially with this main couple. But if you can get past that, it's pretty typical BL trope. It is pretty good, but oh my gosh, it is the slowest burn ever. Ritsu, holy shit. Okay, all of the explanation that I just gave was the first 2 chapters of volume 1. Volume 14, and it's always 135 days until Ritsu falls in love, and so you're at the end of each chapter, you're oh god, how many more days is it gonna be, blah blah blah, and then you'll get close to the timer, and then it resets. It's 200 days until Ritsu admits he's in love, and you're oh my god, no, why can't, and it's so obvious that he is in love with this guy, but he's no, I'm so stubborn. There's been a whole thing. He's admitted to his fiance, arranged fiance, that there's a whole thing. Now, currently, he has another childhood friend from his time in England who's admit his feelings for him. And so there's jealousy there. Got a lot of sex as per usual. Giving keys to each. It's been 84 years. Absolutely, holy shit, guys! It's been 84 years. No, but in saying that, the last chapter of the Ritsu storyline, because the other thing about this is that it's not just Ritsu's story that we're following, but 26 days until he completely, in brackets, falls in love. And it's gone. I'm it's less than a month. Please, just can somebody, Takano-san doesn't need to, because there's the whole other thing, because Takano, his boss, changed his name because his parents got divorced. So that's why Ritsu didn't immediately recognize that his boss is this guy that he was in love with. And then he found out that this guy was looking for him for 10 years, but he couldn't find him because he never gave him his real name. There's all this so much dumb bullshit, and it's oh my god, I'm so invested, and I want Ritsu, and it's all all of this all of this is literally just like Ritsu being an idiot and stubborn and be like, no, I will never bend to this. Yeah. Don't even say that. If I'm reading this at 40, holy shit, I don't want to think about that lifetime. And in saying that, JoJo Romantica is still ongoing and has been forever, so yipes. But in saying that, so I do like Ritsu and Takano because there's something about the trope where it's like things didn't work out, but maybe, we meet again, we've grown, we're different people, maybe things will work out now. Like, we've changed, and like refinding love or reconnecting romantically with someone, it'll be interesting. It's an interesting dynamic, and I think it can be done well in a lot of ways. But the characters I'm actually fucking invested in are the side couple, Kisa and Yukina, sorry. Oh my gosh. Who is one of the other editors at this publishing house, and his extremely beautiful boyfriend, a 21-year-old art student. So, okay. The reason I say that I hate JoJo Romantica is because, one, it has a lot of toxic, like, BL tropes of its time, which is, of its time. I don't like them, but a lot of people do. More so, I hate the age gaps in JoJo Romantica. The main couple has 10 years age difference. The only couple I like has maybe like 7 years age difference. Is it 7? Might even be longer. I don't really remember. The medical student and the professor teacher guy. Those are the only egoists. JoJo egoists. That was the only couple I could stand. And the JoJo terrorist. JoJo terrorist had a 17-year age difference, and the younger one was 17 years old. So I just yelled and was like, no, thank you. That is horrifying. Please, no. So this one doesn't have those age gaps. Kisa and Yukina are the largest age gap at 9 years, but at least one of them is not an actual high school child. And I don't know, the way that they portray their relationship is just really lovely, and kind of like, I like how enthusiastic they both are. You don't have any of that no bullshit, no meaning yes bullshit in their relationship. So this chapter that they have, because they always only have like one chapter dedicated to them at the end of the book, and it's like Yukina is having issues with art school and or his graduation pieces or whatever. And he's like, no, I need to sort my feelings out. I can't see you until after all of my grad thesis and whatever. And Kisa's like, okay. And then so they're apart for months. And then when they finally see each other again, make up for lost time. It's a very satisfying couple, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I mean, I call this trash. It's not the worst thing I've read. It is one of the tropiest things that I read, insofar as like the, toxic tropes of like, no, they say no, but they mean yes, and man, it's fine if you just keep pushing your feelings onto someone, then they will have to reciprocate, etc., etc., etc. But at least there's no really creepy age gap romance. And also I'm just like a sucker of like, I don't know. I don't know. It just, I like the series despite all its flaws. And I think there's also some really beautiful stuff. Like Nakamura can draw also really funny stuff too. Like this first panel of like the Sakura and how he's remembering in childhood how he used to love waiting at the crossing because he could, you know, see his senpai and it was all pink because of the cherry blossoms. I think there's just some really lovely stuff in there. But also, where is the chibi face? Nakamura does some really funny, cute chibi face stuff, and I think it's very good. Give me chibi face. I will find one, I promise. We're gonna yeah. Like that one's not particularly funny, but like that's the style I'm talking about. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff. I mean, as I said, I call it trash. It's not. If I didn't like it, I wouldn't buy it, and it wouldn't be the first thing that I read when I got a whole stack of books of really cool stuff that I was interested in reading. I don't know what it says about my lizard brain that I was like, yes, more Sekaiichi Hatsukoi, give it to me. And then I read it immediately and was like, dang, now I'm going to have to wait 2 years for the next one. It's not that much of a wait, but it feels like it. And that's when you reread the whole thing because you're like, man, this is such a slow release. I just need there. We got Kisa and Yukine on the back. That's it. That's everything that I read. Aisha, you may enjoy this for certain reasons. I don't know if it's like, it's not one that I would recommend, especially in this current era of like actually good, very good BL without a lot of the toxic BL tropes or like having to asterisk it with like 14 different things. Like, yes, it's good, but also like there's a bunch of issues that you may take issue with that are pretty typical. And in saying that, as I said, like I'm not really a Nakamura fan. But I absolutely understand why a lot of people are. Like she's emblematic of an era of, and Junjo Romantica is like still even now hugely popular, right? So it's not like her stuff isn't popular, and things tend to be popular for a reason. But World's Greatest First Love for me is like sort of like how Holic for me is the caveat for like this particular creator and her work. So it's like, man, I don't know if I'm supposed to be or should be liking this, but I am, and I'm not too proud or embarrassed to buy it, to read it, and to talk about it on stream. And every time I have a haul video, so like, can't be that embarrassed about it. Really, I saw a thing about like I don't have any guilty pleasures. Some may classify World's Greatest First Love as a guilty pleasure, but like it straight up doesn't like the quote that I saw is like I don't have any guilty pleasures. Guilty would assume that I feel bad about it, and pleasure never gives me guilt, or I never feel bad about pleasure. Nothing I enjoy, kills people. So what would I have to feel guilty about? And that's just kind of my attitude anyway. Like, I enjoy it. You don't have to enjoy it, but I don't feel bad that I enjoy it. I don't care if there's issues. I mean, if I'm giving a recommendation, I'm going to say like, yes, there's issues, and yes, it's probably not Like I would give other options before saying like, oh, you should buy this. It's super wonderful and good. Especially because there is so much other stuff that I do think is markedly better. But I also don't think it's bad. That would be fun. But also I'd be like, I'd be congregating towards my bullshit that I'm interested in. Junjo. Ugh. I had a friend who was like really into the Junjo terrorist pairing, which is the 17-year-old and 34-year-old. And she thought it was funny. And I was like, that is not funny. That is really concerning. And I kind of hate it a lot. Like, I really do. And they tried to play it off like, oh, well, the younger one's the aggressor, so it's fine. I'm like, no. Even as a dumb 17, 18-year-old, I knew that was dumb. Like, I wasn't into that. And so for a long time, I didn't read. Did I get to I think maybe I watched Junjo after. I've never read Junjo, but I have watched Junjo. I think I watched World's Greatest First Love first before Junjo. I don't really remember. No, I probably would have watched Junjo first because my friend would have shown it to me, and I'd be like, "Why are we watching this? Why?" That friend has a lot to answer for. And you've come at the most inopportune time because I'm about to leave. But yes, it's the end of the live stream. Lots and lots and lots that I talked about for 2 and almost a half hours. Thank you everyone who hung around and stayed. I know that there was maybe, it's always kind of a little bit difficult talking about digital manga because I know that it's also hard to visualize it, especially because I do try to show pages and panels and stuff, the artwork at least for the stuff that I read. But with digital, that's always harder, obviously, because, you know, how do fair. I mean, fair. You're not wrong. But also. But yeah, I'm glad, as always, so many people could hang out with me, and so many people stuck around to the end as well. Like, congrats. I'm so glad that I had a lot of really interesting things to talk about, aside from like my normal stuff that I'm ranting about every week on this channel, because I feel like that'd be just boring if I just keep, you know, complaining about things over and over again. I read a lot of debuts this week, most of them digital. I finished a couple series, which was nice. Continued a bunch of stuff. Die Dark was really great to get to. Really fun time with like Watakoi and After School Hanako-san, or Hanako Kun. Sorry. And of course Holic. And even some of the digital stuff, like a lot of it I did enjoy, not enough to buy the print copy, but enough that I would say that if any of the descriptions sounded interesting to you, that you should maybe check it out. The strongest out of like the debuts for that, maybe the strongest premise-wise is I Can't Stop Cursing You, but my favorite was Cat Lords Manservant, or yeah, whatever that one was. Not because I think it's better than that, but I kind of just think that the goofy premise will be effective on me. But yeah, I hope everyone has a wonderful week of reading your own manga, or your own comics, novels, whatever you want, because there's plenty to read. Not enough time. I also wanted to read a novel this week. That didn't happen. But I got a new light novel. I got the latest volume of a light novel series this week. And I'm so excited to get to it, which is not like maybe is indicative of what it is. It shouldn't be a surprise. But I'm having a massive effort whilst I have the time and I'm at home due to work being closed and stuff, that I can read more so I can get through physical backlog, because it piled up for a little bit there. I hate having backlog and not having read my stuff. We know this. So yes, being proactive about it. Thanks everyone. I hope, as I said, have a wonderful weekend. I'll catch you in the next video. I don't know what it'll be. Probably might be a manga, like first impressions, because I gave a lot of first impressions in this live stream. Might be a manga recommendations video. But it might not be, because who knows? I could get very lazy. That's a huge possibility. Have a good morning, afternoon, or night, wherever you are. And I will see you next time. Bye till then, guys.